Roland Grimes Show live here with my cohort, Miss Latanya. Hi, Miss Latanya.
Hey, Roland.
All right, so Sonny Spur was telling you all the great things about the Georgetown, Hoya, and Syracuse University Orangeman matchup, and I was a part of some of that. There were a couple.
Everybody's on.
Everybody's on. Dujanay, you on with them?
Dujanay.
So I have Dujanay Bland from Florida, and I have Sonny Spur from somewhere near Naugatuck, New York. Are you actually no? Are you living in Syracuse now, or you're in Binghamton?
No, I'm better today. That's Binghamton.
So you went back home.
Yep.
Okay, super. Dujanay, I want to introduce you to Sonny Spur. Sonny Spur was a part of the Syracuse Orangemen's heyday back in the early '80s. One heck of a basketball player.
How's it going, Sonny? That's going well, thank you.
And he was telling us about how the Georgetown Hoya Syracuse Orangeman thing started when Georgetown coach grabbed the microphone at the end of the game and said Manning Fieldhouse is officially closed when they beat us just before the dome opened. And so I'm going to just have you jump in on the conversation. What I'm going to do, fellas, is what Latanya and I are going to do is when you guys start talking with each other, I'm going to actually shut up and let the smart brains in the room kind of conversate with each other, because Dujanay knows a whole lot more about sports than I do, believe it or not. I know a lot about other stuff like Parliament Funkadelic, but he knows sports. And Sonny knows. Matter of fact, my son just lost his tooth, Sonny. Can I send him up there and get you?
Yeah.
So Sonny's my dentist in Central New York. So I'm going up there, let him take out all 5 of my wisdom teeth. Sonny, how many am I supposed to have? Did I get that right?
No.
So I might have 5. I got an extra head over here. So look here, Sonny. What did we learn, man, from the March Madness tournament so far? Tell me 1 or 2 things that you talked to some of the youngsters about, some of your colleagues about, from this tournament that kind of gets lost in the shuffle.
Well, I think, a couple things that I see is, number one, as much pressure that's on Kentucky to basically remain perfect. I think those kids just go out and play, and they play to win. And I'm not a big fan of Coach Cal, but I will say that those kids, he knows how to coach. And those kids are playing to win, and I give them a lot of credit. But, you get blasted, they get blasted. You're not here for school, you're just here for basketball. But you know what? They're doing it on the court. They're doing a nice job.
All right, fellas, I'm going to bring this out to you. Latanya, I'm going to bring this out. Sonny, we're having a lot of debate about that up here in terms of the fact that they make no bones about these guys are there to play basketball. I played at a time when, like, if you're only going to be there for a semester and a half, like, after that first semester, you don't have to go to class anymore.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know, honestly speaking, if those guys are going to class, then that would be new to me.
Right, and sometimes, because you're not going to class, you kind of put yourself in a little bit of a corner that you can't get yourself eligible, so you almost have to go pro, but
Right.
I think it's a little more sophisticated. I think they have a lot more, like, these draft projections, and where is he on the big board, and, all this stuff. I was listening to it today, talking about that Willie Cauley-Stein, for example.
Mm-hmm.
Where's he going to be on the draft board, and stuff like that, so.
So you paint yourself into a corner because if you haven't been going to class, now you have to grab an agent, declare, and go. By the same token, unless they go by progress reports in the middle of the school year or in the middle of the semester, Dujanay, there's no way that they're even going to know what their grades are because Sonny, when we were playing, we really didn't pay attention to grades till the end of the semester. You weren't put on probation because of midterm reports.
Right. No. Right. I think that's something that's difficult. That's very difficult, and it's something that it can be dangerous because we all know that not everybody makes it in the NBA. So once you have put yourself in a position where you're pretty much geared to enter the draft, you cut your abilities to have a backup plan per se, unless you have a catastrophic injury
Right.
Probably 3 to 4 days of classes every week.
Right.
The
You know
last
that?
3 weeks.
Because of that traveling and basketball?
And for them to continue to do well in school is damn near impossible. I mean, it's very, very hard given the fact that you miss that many classes. And then if you have a kid who's entertaining that idea, you just make it easy. You know, you just say, well, I'm just going to give up on trying to keep up in the classes and do it. I think it's very unfortunate. I think it's unfair. But I think it's unfortunate.
Well, I'll tell you what. Also, let's do the flip side of it, folks. What kind of competitive advantage do you have as a basketball program when half of your guys really don't have to go to class that last 2 months of the season because they're going to be declaring themselves for the draft? I mean, understand, if you decide not to go to class all day, what does that do for your competitiveness in terms of watching more film, in terms of getting away room, getting extra work, extra sprints, and extra foul shots? Talk to me.
It definitely gives you a tremendous advantage if you don't have to focus on those other outside things. Those guys can take that time that they could be spending doing schoolwork because that's not their focus, and can focus that extra time being in the film room, getting healthier, having to be in the cold tubs and getting healthy, focusing on practicing foul shots, et cetera, et cetera. And so you are getting a competitive advantage over another team because those guys don't really take those other academic things as seriously as the other schools are. That's 100% right. Man, you couldn't have said it any more perfect than that.
So now I'm going to add to this, and I'm going to sort of push this into another direction here. I'm a father, and I have a son. He's going pro. I know this already. What sport it is, I don't know. And of course, I'm going to say that or think that or wish that if that's something that he wants. Now, he's a phenom like some of these guys, like the kid at Duke. You know, I have to advise him. I have to do certain things, in my relationship with him to help guide him through that process. Sonny, I believe you're coaching some youngsters right now. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And are members of your family part of your team?
They were. This particular group I have right now are not, but I've coached both my daughters for their high school careers, yeah.
All right, great. Now, the NCAA every year, and it really irks me, fellas and ladies, because they start to run these stories before major games on the networks. And it seems like every story that I'm watching is some African-American kid who came from some place like as close to purgatory as you can get, whose father's not in his life, and he didn't have a piece of bread, and went outside and played basketball all day and night, and all of a sudden he's on the big stage, and everybody's hurrahing him and hoping he goes to the pros, because if he doesn't, now he has to go back to the same environment that he came from unless he's able to somehow use his degrees and network to do some other things. And I'll be honest with you guys in saying, I get kind of tired of seeing those stories. LaTanya, you have a point. Talk to me.
No, I was just getting ready to say when you said they used their degrees. What degree they going to use? They just gave them a fake degree.
Okay, now, fellas, you heard that. Let's get into it. Is there such thing as a fake degree?
I mean, you just said that they're not going to class. And
No.
After that, so therefore, how are you getting a degree and what are you going to fall back on?
Okay, these are the ones that, all of them aren't in that category like you see in Kentucky.
Okay.
All right, let's say the rest of us who actually complete school.
Okay.
We're coming from many of them in the city. Matter of fact, Sonny, Derek Brower called last week, and he said that at the time he was playing, toward the end of, I guess after you left, he and Ronnie Cycli were the only two guys on the team who had a mother and father in the household at the same time.
Yeah, I heard him say that. I was surprised. I was surprised about that.
Now, when you say surprised, is that because the guys in the locker room didn't talk about it, or you had no concept of it? Like how?
Good point. Yeah, I don't think it was talked about. Like I knew, like Wendell was my roommate on the road, so I knew both his mom, his dad, his girlfriend, knew each other. We knew each other well.
He's talking about Wendell Alexis.
Yeah,
Right.
Alexis.
Mm-hmm.
And Sean Cairns was my high school teammate. my freshman year, Sean's sophomore year, so he lost his dad.
Mhm.
But like, I knew Andre because Andre and I were tight. But I didn't know a lot of the other guys, you know, what the story was. Like, Gene Wilder, we've actually become really close since we graduated, but I didn't know what the story was with his dad. Now, you know, I through contact now, I find out his dad passed away a while back, but I think his dad was in the picture, but it just never was, it never was talked about. That never came up. And I don't know why. You bring up a good point. I don't know where that came from.
You know, what happens is in bringing up that point, it actually came from my watching March Madness year after year after year, and they're telling these stories. And of course, they're kind of heartstring stories. You know, they pull on your heartstrings, and you know, and they connect you to the human element. But I'm going to play a tape from you because they actually ran a story on the son of Hank Gathers. So it's a little bit of a dichotomy here because Hank was the athlete, but he also was the parent of a young man. And when Hank passed, you know, suddenly, this guy was playing basketball and he had a heart attack during the game and died during the game. Well, his son was left, they won a lawsuit. They probably didn't even have to sue him. They won a settlement. And the son was supposed to get this money at 18. So now he gets this money at 18, and then according to the news, he naturally made some real bad decisions. Now here he is 18 years old with all his money, and all of a sudden now he's incarcerated. Which means like the opposite of what it should. When you're 18 and you come into millions of dollars or hundreds of thousands of dollars, that should be your springboard to be able to pay for your education and get yourself settled and buy your house and buy your car. And you shouldn't need to go out slinging drugs and getting into trouble. But somehow he fell into that situation anyway. There was some real interesting commentary, and there's a second part to it that we're not going to hear. That Kenny Smith said some things in reference to it that I'm going to play next week. But I want you to hear some of the dialogue between Greg Gumbel at the tail end of this and then Clark Kellogg and his reaction coming at you.
No, I can't hear it.
Sit tight, you're trying to get it in.
It's playing. I think because
Because it's still a wave, huh?
no, it's MP3. You hear it? You hear it now? Oh, it's just
Yeah,
low.
it's coming, it's just low.
Yeah, it's
Just take low.
stay low.
That's it. See the low. Oh, yeah. That's it. If you run it back. Oh, really?
I hear it.
If you take that to the beginning, that's
I just
it.
did.
Shot that free throw that pointed and caught with about athletes who have lost a parent at an early age. Here we're talking about the son of a former player. There's so many layers to that. An individual is off the power and influence of dads or all dads. And the good that can come out of anybody's story, even when it can be painful, difficult. I mean, there's no greater privilege and blessing than to be a dad. And that rocks me on so many different levels because I am, and I know the impact that dads have. But to see Aaron moving forward this way is awesome. It's good.
So if you could hear some of that clip, Greg Gumbel at the tail end of that was talking about Aaron, the son of Hank Gathers, and then Clark Kellogg actually was literally boo-hooing on the set even before the camera turned to him. Tears were rolling down his face, and of course now I'm crying, losing my mind, crying as well, because I think about the time that I spent with many of you guys working out, Sonny, you know, working out in the same facilities with guys like you, and then watching you grow and become a professional in whatever it is that you do, but of course, your chosen craft in dentistry. And then, I get a chance to meet people like Dujanay along the way, and, he's in Florida, and we have some connection with people up here. And of course, Lionel and Latanya, who was a cheerleading coach for Bishop McNamara High School when I was there, and I realized how athletics creates such a thread among people from all walks of life who come from different directions and different places. But in the process of that, when I look in the stands, I see that missing man. And too many situations, there's not a father there. I'm having a conversation with a gentleman who works with some college athletes at a college near us. I'm not going to get into specifics of it. And when we had dinner, he said that he works with a football team. There's 106 guys on his college team. And he said that the number one issue that these guys express in his individual counseling sessions with them is over their father. Not their girlfriends, not the grades, not mom, not the coach. Their dad.
That's big. That's big. Well, I think, the one thing, speaking of fathers and stuff, like, I think some coaches, recognize that, and I think they make, I don't know if they make an effort, but they make sure that that's a part, it's not just X's and O's, I think that's a part of their responsibility, I'll say. Like, I thought the one most telling statement when Dean Smith passed was Michael Jordan said, other than my father, Dean Smith was the most important man in my life. I thought that was huge. I thought that said more about him as a person than a coach. And, it just goes so much deeper than that. And, I just, that kind of thing, that just stays with me. So as a coach, I just think that's a huge responsibility. I think some coaches don't accept it. And I think it's a crime, especially at that college age. That's a huge, growing up, being a man, I think that everybody deals with it differently. And I think when you don't have either a father at home or someone that at least is a strong male role model, I think it's very hard.
I have to agree with you there too. When you think back to my high school days, and you think about the different individuals, coaches, whether you're talking about a basketball coach, football coach, or maybe even just a simple band director, a marching band. These individuals, if they really truly take their job seriously, and as you said, accept that part of it, being involved in a child's life and helping them to grow, you can really see not just from the X's and O's or the musical standpoint, but you really see that person's effect on the individual as they become as they grow in the process of growing up in age, and as you said, college level, growing to be a man or woman, and really going, trying to set their life in order. And I think you can see that with several coaches. My first one that comes to mind is Coach Mike Krzyzewski. I like that guy, and you can see every player that has ever played for him has nothing but good things to say about him, and really have cherished their time there. He's really helped change a lot of people's lives that he has touched. I think that's a huge deal when it comes down to being a coach. Not that every person is like that, but it definitely does make a huge difference, because it is a great deal of young men that are without fathers.
I agree with.
100% I agree with you on Coach K. Now, my experience playing with Coach Boeheim, and I think Derek may or may not have touched on it last week with you, Roland, but I don't think that was a part of the responsibility that he either wanted or dealt with or had. And I think it was hard. I think it was very hard. Like I saw Andre, who was one of my closest friends, but I think his high school coach became like a father figure to him, to the point where he came up and checked on him a couple times. And I do remember, that wasn't there. That was not something that was there in our That was just not part of, was not part of his DNA. It was just not going to happen.
I agree with you all. I agree with you all as far as the coaches being a role model in a guy's life. But I was going to touch on kind of what you just did. Last week when we were talking to the gentleman and he was saying how his college coach, and I'm assuming it's the same guy that this gentleman just spoke about, was not there to be that mentor. And if you weren't the star player, they didn't have anything to do with you. So how do you mentor those kids? How do you get to them? Those that don't have a dad and they're not the star player, who steps up and takes on that role and that responsibility?
I think that's a very good point.
You know, okay, let me throw some stuff in there real quick. And the reason why I'm not doing much talking is because you guys are beautiful, all three of you in this dialogue. So it's one of those cases that my young man Brandon, my intern from Bishop McNamara High School, in with me, and he's never heard me shut up in his life, but this is the first time I'm actually speechless. So let's go there with it. I'm there with you guys, Sonny, Derek, Jerome Hall called in afterwards, and we've heard from a number of people who played at Syracuse, as you know, since we've been here, and I'm there. Regardless of my perception or my impression of what's going on, the thing is it a situation where it was the personality of a coach? Is it more he became a coach during an era where they didn't have to play that role as much? Because, and I bring that up because society changed a lot between the 1960s and the 1980s. This weekend we're going to celebrate on April 4th the assassination of Martin Luther King. As I celebrate, commemorate. And I'm doing a show with some men who integrated Washington, D.C. sports in schools in the 1950s and 60s. My father was the first member of the integrated class at McKinley Tech High School in Washington, D.C., the first one that had African Americans graduate in 1957. And we're going to hear some of those connections and stories. One of the things that one of the players said about Dean Smith was that in every generation that he coached, he seemed to be in step with whatever was going on in society at that time, and it did not become a hindrance in his relationships with his players. In other words, he stayed relevant from the 60s through the 70s through the 80s, the 90s, and into the 2000s, which, as you guys know, the world has changed so much since those shorts that they're wearing now, Sonny, we would have been laughed out of the gym if we had shorts to our ankles. Dujanay, you laughing? Now, Latanya, I still have those shorts from back in the day, and
I don't want to see
are you really laughing? Sonny, I'm gonna find your picture, show what your legs look like, man. She's cracking on the show. Sonny, we was sexy. I don't care what she says, but but everything changed, including the fashion, including the dialogues, the relationships, the multicultural environment that we moved into. I remember when Jim Brown was going there, they told him, man, you better not date any white girls. And when we were going there, it wasn't even the topic of conversation. So you had these kind of changes. Does a coach sometimes not outlive his generation, but do they sometimes have the inability to connect with the changes that are going on in society, and therefore don't take that kind of role that may have been needed in the last 30, 40 years, especially with these players that's coming in from the inner city? Or do you think it's really much more of a personality, or is it really kind of equal combination of the two? Sonny,
It's both.
you think it's both?
Well, I understand the definite differences in generations, but I don't believe for a second that you took a Mike Krzyzewski, 50, 60, 70, he's going to be that guy. Jimmy Villarano, some of these other guys, like Roland Massimino, for example, at Villanova, right? The great upset of Georgetown.
Yes.
I have to talk about that because it just makes me feel good that Georgetown.
Makes you feel good?
It makes me feel good. But Massimino was the kind of guy, because I know guys that played there that still have a connection and a contact with him to this day. that's just there. I think a Jay Wright is a great example that's going over right now. I think there are certain coaches that just have it, and there are certain coaches that don't, but I also think there's certain coaches that don't want it. They want to coach, they want to win, they want to get paid. That other stuff, like Charles Barkley at one point said, I'm not a role model, I'm not a father figure. And I just don't think that they accept that or want that. So I don't think the generation thing is a big thing. I think it's coaching stuff, personally.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with what you said too. I think it's, there's too many coaches out there that have, gone through several generations, and had to deal with some things back in the 60s and 80s and have come along and done it absolutely marvelous in all forms of sport, basketball, football, etc. So I think it's a matter of either have it or you don't, or you either want to or you don't want it. And I think that's really what it all boils down to.
Sonny,
I agree.
Sonny,
Yes.
Coach Boeheim,
Okay.
your perception, is it more consistent with didn't have it or didn't want it?
No. He doesn't have it, and I don't think he wants it. I think the best description of him is aloof. And I think that's just a polite way of saying, you just, like, you said it, like, if you're a star player, okay, he had one thing, if not, he did ignore you. And even if you were a player like Andre, I don't think Andre has a lot of, I won't speak for him, but I don't think, they started all 4 years every game, I don't think there's a relationship there. And, just, even now as an alumni going back, there's not the relationship that we should have as players, because the bond wasn't there, And you pointed ahead, it just wasn't there, it just wasn't put out.
Latanya, now you coached, and when we talk to some of your players, what kind of reaction are we going to get from them? Are they going to say, didn't want it, didn't have it, had it, mother figure, father figure?
You're gonna get both. You're gonna get all of the above.
Okay.
And some of it, in my perspective, is personalities. Some of my kids I did not get along with, but I still had to coach them. I still had a job to do. Some of them I am still close to now that I've coached. I can go to restaurants and I see kids and they're like, "Hi, Coach Tanya," and I have to look to see. And I've coached them when they were 7, 8 years old. And I still have a relationship with them. One girl, she's actually at University of Maryland. Her and I are still close. I still follow her. I see what's going on with her in school and everything. So you have a mixture of personality and everything else that goes along with that. I do try to make sure that I stay up on what's going on in the world and in a college student's life so that I can relate to things that they're going through.
Okay. Real quick, on Facebook, I just posted a picture of Sonny Spera D'ing up Michael Jordan. And Brandon didn't know it. Look at his face. It's like, what? That's Michael Jordan. Right. Sonny was in his jock strap. I was there. That's at the Carrier Dome. Sonny, tell us. Man. Yeah, Michael's hands are on his knees. He's tired. He's gasping for air. He's looking for his Gatorade, wearing his Hanes. Looking for his Gatorade. And what else? Oh, and looking for a ballpark Frank. All at one time, because Sonny was in his jockstrap. All right, folks, as we wind up, guys, we're going to end on this note. We're going to play another tape for you, and this actually comes from Sonny. Sonny, Dujanay, Latanya, I hope you all are impressed with this. I try to be a man of many disciplines, or at least in terms of information. So this next clip actually comes from the Bloomberg Financial News Station. I'm not even going to set the clip. I'm going to let it play and then get comments from you guys as we wrap up.
Resale market for Final Four tickets. Game fans who want to see Kentucky finish an undefeated season. The average resale price for a ticket to the game Saturday and the game on Monday in Indianapolis is almost $1,900. That's a record and 25% more than the previous record that was set just last year. And those are your top stories. much do the players make? Very good point. By the way, coming up.
All right. All right. So it may have sounded sketchy to you guys. They were talking about the NCAA tournament, and they were talking about how much the tickets are going for in the Final Four, and it said upwards of $1,900. And then at the end, the co-anchor, she said, "And how much do the players get paid?" And then the gentleman turned to him and said, "Very good point." Now understand, this is the Bloomberg Financial News Station, so they're not caring about Sonny Shorts. They're not caring about Bubba Grimes' hat and wardrobe. And they're really not caring about how many people are in the stands. What they're talking about are the gate receipts, the money that comes off of the endorsements, and where that money gets spent. It's a financial news station. So, guys, in this day and age, should we still run this business of NCAA athletics and the players are receiving none of the revenue profits from these situations? What do you think? Speak up for me. Dujanay. There you go. Need you to be a little louder for me.
We're talking about big time money being spent, and I really believe that these players should be at least being compensated in some sort. I know everybody says, well, they're getting education, but if a guy goes out and hurts himself and to where he cannot play ever again, he gets nothing. But NCAA has gotten their pockets pretty fat off of him being able to have those abilities at the time to put those seats, those people in the stands, and to be able to buy this tickets as well. So I think they should get something, at least something.
When you say that the players should get something, and I'm gonna throw my female hat out there, is it just for men's sports, or does it go the same for women's sports? University of Maryland women are doing excellent.
Whatever.
Do they get paid? So it's both ways. Is it just men?
Are you asking this in both ways, or
I'm
you telling
asking
us
it in both
ways?
ways, and I'm
All right.
saying it should be
I
both
see,
ways.
see,
'Cause you have to once you start talking about paying a player.
You can't have it both
are
ways.
you
Are you
why not?
asking a question, or are you making a statement? You
I'm
can't have
doing
it both.
both.
So I guess
So once you start paying a player,
The-
are you only paying the men, or are you going to pay the women?
Cut it out,
Is it
Gucci
only
man.
the basketball team that you're
Oh,
playing, or is
gosh.
it football? Is it lacrosse? Is
Oh.
it whatever sport that's out there?
female liberties. You know I'm in trouble. Lana's over there like, you asked for it. All right, so here's the thing. Latonya,
Yes.
fellas, all I'm doing is basing it on revenue.
And I'm just asking a question.
And all I'm saying for the question is, if they're bringing in the revenue, then they should get compensated.
Okay.
If they're not bringing in the revenue, then
I mean, they sell tickets. People come to their games, so they're getting revenue on the game.
Yeah,
They're getting
then they should
revenue
be
on the
compens-
concession
then they should be
stands.
compensated.
So then they need to be compensated.
I agree,
Okay.
gentlemen.
So I agree. I also think that you got to do something to, since the basketball, let's just take the right back. The basketball is the king, and they don't care what time the game is played, and they have these kids, they got to be there Tuesday when they play Thursday, and they're missing all those classes. They also got to do something to make sure that they have a fight chance in the classroom. They've got to count for all the time that they're taking away from the classroom from these kids, because they have almost no chance. Because the farther they go, the more school they miss, the more behind the eight ball, and guarantee they're in summer school. And coaches win there because now they're in summer school, they're on their campus, they're working them out 24/7. So I think financially they should be compensated. To Latania's point, I think male and female, but I think it should be a little bit commensurate with where the revenue is coming. If men's sports are generating the lion's share, then the lion's share should go there. The women's NCAA is generating money, that should go to those female athletes as well, because you're making the money off the backs of these kids. They should be compensated. Both sides, men's and women's.
All right, folks, we're going to wrap up the Roland Bubba Grimes. Once again, from Roland Grimes Show Live, saying goodbye with my chief engineer, Mr. Lionel, and also my co-host, Ms. LaTanya, and everybody in the house, from Brandon to Darius to Ron to Mr. B. I want to thank you guys once again, Sonny Dugenet, for checking in with us. We hope to talk to you again real soon. And appreciate all the commentary. Sit tight. We're going to send it to you over the next couple of days so that you can hear it right from the horse's mouth. Hey, folks, have a good evening. This again, Roland Bubba Grimes, Roland Grimes Show Live, WBGR Radio Sports.
Good night.